Hi, everyone. Welcome to what promises to be a fantastic live stream. I say this with absolute, complete faith in God because I believe strongly that it is not by power, nor is it by might, but by my spirit, said the Lord. Only Christians in the building will understand what I just said. But that is the spirit with which I am opening this live stream. And it's really tiring for me, doing the live stream and often having to deal with technical issues. I've had one where none of that happened, and I was really grateful for that. Thank you, Lord. But it's becoming a reoccurring theme, and I hope that will not be the case today. And I'm grateful to each and every one of you for joining me this evening. It is evening in Nigeria, so good evening. The beauty of the internet is that you get to connect with so many from various parts of the world, and the world has I don't know how many number of time zones. So if you are staying in Europe, this would be evening, probably 6, 7, 8, or 5, depending. If you stay in Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, the same thing. If you stay in Canada, the United States, then this would be like midday, early afternoon. I believe probably 12, 1, 2, or 11, depending. And if you're in Australia, this is probably early morning of uh, of the 23rd of August. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. All of which applies at this point. Thank you to each and every one of you for joining me. I am so grateful to have every one of you here, and I'm grateful for this opportunity always. Today we'll be discussing. We'll be looking at. A video by Jubilee. Jubilee is this site and stuff. They have a couple of interesting videos, a few, many interesting videos. And they do this thing in Jubilee that is called middle ground, where they bring two people or two group of people with contrasting opinion and contrasting viewpoint on similar issue or a particular subject, and they have them discuss and see if they can, you know, come to the middle, find middle ground, like the video suggests, and that is what we'll be doing. And it has to do with, let me get it. What we are doing today, the video we are looking at today, has to do with children and their conversation. Is that the one? Sorry, let me look at the title of my live stream and be sure. I have so many topics lined up, so just to be sure. Oh, that's not the one I'm doing. That's for another day. What I'm dealing with today is men's rights versus feminism. You see, sometimes you forget these things. It's on the about a lot of things. Sorry, guys. I think I may have made a mistake with the whole title stuff, and that would be crazy. That would be crazy. I think I made a mistake with the title. Let me be sure. Let me be sure. Let me be sure. Live stream 3. Oh, I did not make any mistake. I did not make any mistake. I was 100% correct. Where I live is close to a church. You guys are going to know that today. And right now they are in service, so you might be hearing singing at the background. Just know that is what is causing it. That's the reason. And yep. So I don't know if I should waste so much time giving you guys funny intros and opening rant or opening monologue and stuff like that. And I can notice that there's a little lag. I don't know if you guys can feel it. Let me know in the chat if you are experiencing a little lag.
Hello, everyone.
I am. No, I'm seeing notification of such from my. Yeah, here we go again. Here we go again. Anyways, so this is the video we'll be reacting to, and it's going to be fun. People want to know in the. John said in the chat, "I like your hat, Frank." Thank you so much. I got it today actually. Funny enough, I got it like a few hours ago. I went out and I was like, you want to use it? I want to feature a new hat in this video. I want something, I want a unique look. And I was like, yeah, I think this hat will give me just that. So I went and I purchased it. Chose, I don't know how to pronounce your name. And you said, do you wear jeans or joggers? I don't know why that information is important. Cameron Smoothie said US EST 2 p.m., US CNT, that's me, 1 p.m., 12 p.m., US MST, and 11 a.m. US PST. Wow, that's interesting. That's something interesting that I learned about the US, that you guys have so many multiple time zones. That's crazy. In Nigeria, we have just one time zone, GMT plus one. So and GMT plus one is the same time zone for both Nigeria and Cameroon. I don't know if there's even a part of Cameroon that use GMT plus two, but I think South Africa is GMT plus two. Ghana is GMT. So I know the time zone for some African countries. But it's just crazy to see that like the US have like how many time zones? A lot of them. That is really interesting. That is very interesting. And Anthony Bassi said, thank you for having us. Well, you guys are the ones having me. You could just log off. But you guys still stay here. And I think there is a little lag. Anyways, I'm going to go straight into the video. So yeah, this is the video we're talking about. Men's rights versus feminism. Is toxic masculinity real? What do I think about the subject? Before we get into the video, toxic masculinity. People, if I was asked this question last year, if I was asked this question early last year, I would say no. I would have said no. No, it doesn't exist. Toxic masculinity is just something that was coined that refers to nothing. But right now, I do not share the same opinion because I have seen toxic masculinity. Okay, I've seen it on the internet. I've seen people who are women haters. I've seen people who believe sexist, essentially, people who believe in subjugating women, oppressing women, who believe that women are like non-entities, essentially. There are even worldviews that see women as, just very terrible, vile creatures that should be put in their place and not be allowed to speak and not be allowed to have certain rights that every other person has in the society. I've seen views that look at women as second-class citizens and should be put in their place. They belong only in the house. They should be heard. They should be seen, not heard, or not even be seen in some instances. So I believe there's this culture of sexism that exists in various places. Even in Nigeria, right? We have customs that kind of promote this view of women that it's not nice. It's not something that anybody would advocate for. It's not something that if you look at it, rationally, you would think, oh, this is fair, or this is right, or this is just. So I think there is that culture of negative view towards women. Now, if that's what you want to call toxic masculinity, then yes, there is something called toxic masculinity. But of course, the problem is always with definition, right? When you say there is something called toxic masculinity, what are you referring to? The problem is there is no definition. There is no working definition. Because what I just described as toxic masculinity can be seen as sexism, right? It can be seen as misogyny. Is misogyny what you call toxic masculinity? Is sexism, which is detrimental, this negative stereotype and worldview of women, is it what you would describe as toxic masculinity? If that's what you describe as toxic masculinity, then it exists. But the question, of course, is with definition. For me, toxic masculinity means this negative treatment or negative view that many men in today's society, and I'm not saying it's peculiar to our modern time. We see it in among various cultures at different time in human history, but I'm not saying it has always been the trend. But you often find this worldview and this sentiment that see women as property, as objects, and treat them as such. So when you see a man who have that worldview of women and treat them as such, I would consider that toxic. So I see it more as a toxic view of women, a toxic view of what masculine role is, a distorted view of masculinity. For me, a distorted view of masculinity is toxic masculinity, because it's going to lead to harm in society. It's going to be unbeneficial and detrimental to society. That is what I see as toxic masculinity. But when people talk about toxic masculinity, sometimes they just use it to refer to masculinity in general, which is often the problem. That's for me the major problem with the conversation around masculinity and toxic masculinity. Is that when people talk about it, they have this view that everything masculine is toxic. Everything masculine should not be Everything masculine should not be encouraged. Everything masculine should not. We should try to make men in society effeminate. We should push feminine ideas upon. We should impose feminine ideas on men. Men are not. You hear this talk often where you say men are not allowed to be men. Men are not taught to be men. Men are not taught that it is good for them to be themselves. Essentially, when many people, especially the mainstream conversation that I see on the subject, just deals with, we are not going to see masculinity as a good thing. We are going to see it as something that is bad, as something that is toxic, as something that should not be encouraged. And when we have that kind of view, it becomes hard to define what toxic masculinity is. And also, I will grant that there is such a thing as toxic femininity. If there are toxic male behavior, of course, there are toxic female behavior, right? And when you ask feminists, I think the doctrine of feminism is masculinity is toxic. And when a woman encourages masculinity and subscribes to any form of positive masculinity, or even sees masculinity as positive, as there's something positive in masculinity that we should encourage, when a woman have that view, then that is toxic femininity. So a traditional, in fact, what I say as toxic masculinity in the mainstream among feminists is masculinity, traditional masculinity is toxic. Everything traditional, every aspect of traditional masculinity is toxic. And any woman who encourages and upholds traditional masculinity is toxic. So that is their definition of toxic masculinity and toxic femininity. And that kind of definition, of course, you see, it doesn't make sense because it demonizes masculinity. And there is something to be said about that, But without saying too much, let's get into the video and see what these people are saying.
Hi, my name is Zach. Agreeing.
I actually hope to get a little.
Sorry, I kind of...
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Thank you for tuning in for Middle Ground, which is all about disagreeing and having a dialogue.
That's
all
right.
this
Make sure
beginning
you
stuff.
To shepherd us. Said that when
about the ethos middle ground.
And having a dialogue.
That's right. Make sure you stick around to the end because we want to discuss more about the ethos middle ground. But for now, we hope you enjoy.
you said that women are misguided. We are not.
Sorry, I need to increase the resolution. I hope it doesn't affect my frame rate. I can see here that my frame rate is dropping.
Not misguided. We do not need you to shepherd us.
How's it going?
Hello.
Would you call yourself a feminist?
I would.
Yes, an intersectional feminist.
The best kind.
What comes to mind?
The best kind of feminists are the intersectional feminists. Those ones that believe in how feminism intersects with race and intersects with gender. You know, I don't even know how. You hear people that say their feminism is broad enough to include trans women. So that's what you understand. That's what we understand by intersectional feminism. So we are dealing with the best of the best here, and that's good to know.
Marxism?
To me, feminism is fairness.
I think that it's unfortunately misguided.
Feminism is a flawed movement.
When you hear the phrase men's rights, what comes to mind?
Aggression.
Advocating for the human rights of man as a class.
I start laughing.
What do you hope to get in the conversation today?
I would hope to get some insight and probably, if anything, agree on a lot more than disagreeing.
I actually hope to get a little bit more understanding of why some men think this.
Can you? All right, we are back. My audio disconnected. That's crazy. Out of nowhere. Always happens. So where were we?
And probably, if anything, agree on a lot more than disagreeing.
I actually hope to get a little bit more understanding of
All
why
right.
some men think this way.
Do you think there's middle ground between men's rights activists and feminism?
We'll see.
All right. That's a good attitude to come up with. I mean, it's good to come up with the attitude, oh, let's see how it goes. Let's see, than to just be like, oh, well, there's no way we can form a middle ground or come to an agreement. We'll see. Do I think there's a middle ground between feminism and men's rights activists? I don't know. I myself, I don't know if that is possible. I don't think it's possible. I think they're just two opposing views, two opposing sides. They do not really agree with each other at all. Guys, don't worry. You're soon going to see that my audio is back. It is back. Anyway, so yeah, they're just two opposing sides when it has to do with feminism and men's rights activists. I just feel there are two opposing sides. I don't know if there will be a middle ground. If there's one thing that we should at least strive for in this kind of conversations is civility, right? At least let's be civil. Let's be civil about it. Let's not, turn it to a shouting match. And that's one thing that I like, Jubilee does. They are able to get these people to have these conversations these difficult conversations in a civil way. And that is beautiful to see, Sometimes when I'm watching some of these things, I'm like, if I was there, I don't know how I would react. I'll be like, come on. There's some things you just hear and you'll be like, come on. You don't really believe that, do you? But let's see how this one goes. Everyone should keep an open mind. And there's something we can learn from the feminists and there's something we can learn from the men's rights activists. Whichever camp you are on, let's just come to this with an open mind and try to learn. Bombastic side.
Hi, my name is Zach, and I am 24 years old.
This is Chris. I'm a PhD student at the University of Southern California, and I'm also a Title IX specialist who challenges discrimination against men on college campuses. And I'm 30 years old.
Hi, I'm Derek. I also go by Brendio. I'm a YouTuber, and I'm also known as an incel, which is an involuntarily celibate.
Hi, my name is Alicia. I am a writer, poet, and teaching
Yeah,
artist.
he said something. He said something that I missed.
And I'm also known as an incel, which is an involuntarily celibate.
He's an involuntary celibate. Whoa. Wow, this is the first time I met somebody who will self-identify as that. I mean, often that is being thrown as an insult. People don't proudly own it as a label. Like, I am what you know as an involuntary celibate. That's interesting.
Hi, my name is Alicia. I am a writer, poet, and teaching artist.
Hi, I currently work in the pet health industry, and
If this statement is true for you, I believe men and women are different but equal.
This is what I think about the question. I think, yes, men and women are different but equal. Like I've expressed this sentiment in so many ways in many shots that I've done. This idea that men and women are different but equal. And it's true. It's true. We are different, but yet we are equal. We have different biological capacity. We have different, even as individuals generally, every human being, we are all not the same. We have different abilities, different ideas, different capacity, different capabilities. We exist in different locations. So many things. We have been affected by different things. We come from different backgrounds. We have so many things that are different about us. So as individuals, we are different. We are so different. Yet we are equal. We are equal in essence. We are the same in that we have the same value. We have the same intrinsic value. We are all image bearers. If you're a Christian, you believe we are all image bearers if you, I don't know if you subscribe to any other form of belief, or you believe that, at least at the very basic, we are all made up of the same thing. We all have bodies, we all have minds, even though those minds think in different ways, those bodies carry out different activities and have various capacities and capabilities. We have things we tend towards, we have things we drift away from. But in essence, we are all the same. And I guess that's why the U.S. Constitution, I guess, or the Declaration of Independence says we hold this truth to be self-evident, that all men were created equal. And that is what equality is. The problem is that when many people hear equality, they think uniformity. They think it means we are the same, we have no difference. And yes, there is a sense where the word equal means the same, right? 2 plus 2 equals 4 means 2 plus 2 is the same as 4, right? And essentially that is the case, right? 2 plus 2 is the same as 4. So that's what it means to be equal. It means the same. But that is one sense of using the word equal. Another sense of using the word equal is that we have the same value, right? That is why you can put two different objects on a scale and they weigh the same, and you say both objects are equal because they weigh the same. They have the same weight. They have equal weight. In the same way, when you say men and women are equal, it means they have equal value. They have equal intrinsic value. They cannot do without the other. They are equal in that sense, but they are not the same. I think it goes without saying at this point that human beings are not the same, and therefore men and women are not the same. Sex plays a great role in the differences that we have amongst ourselves. When it comes to biology, when it comes to even temperament, when it comes to interest, men and women generally don't share the same interest. Men and women generally don't have the same sentiment. Temperament rather. Men and women generally, in fact, scientifically, I would say, biologically don't have the same physical capacity. We cannot do the same thing. Our bodies cannot do the same thing. Women can give birth, men can't. But let me see what the people who are opposed to this will say. But first of all, we'll have to hear from those who are in support. So here we go. Oh, so people are changing their mind?
I know as a woman that I don't have the same physical strengths. Men and women are built differently. I think whenever things are built differently, it's for a reason, right? But at the same time, the amount of limits that have been put on women historically, like the fact that not too long ago we were just allowed to start voting. Even today, the wage gap, just all types of stuff, women just don't have a lot of rights that are it should have nothing to do with what gender we are to be able to be paid equally or just be treated with respect. So, yeah.
We've not, don't you think? I believe that we've not gotten to that part yet. This lady is jumping the gun. We are not yet talking about if, sorry, somebody just gave a $10 super chat and it is not showing up. It is not showing on my radar. Can you imagine? That's bad. This person said, and that's Hide F10. He said, love your stream. It is great to see people across the world that have logical opinions. Greetings from Scotland. Yeah, thank you. Rights that we should have had that was not given to us. I think we've not gotten to that point yet. We're just talking about different but equal. And I think you're already getting ahead of yourself. But let me see what others have to say.
Yeah. I do believe that, of course, there are biological differences between men and women. And of course, there should also be legal equality. Of course, I disagree with the idea that women face systemic discrimination. You just mentioned the wage gap, which has been debunked so many times.
As in, they've debunked that thing countless number of times. Yet people keep bringing that thing up. And it's the problem with the media and for the most part, leftist ideology, right? Leftist ideology, you debunk it over and over and over and over again. Yet people will still bring it up like it is common knowledge, like it has not been shown to be false. They keep bringing it up. It's not enough that you're able to demonstrate that this is false, but they'll keep bringing it up over and over again. The gender pay gap does not exist. One of the videos that I'm planning to do in the future is to break down the gender pay gap and show how it does not exist. It doesn't. Studies upon studies upon studies have been done to show. This is not one study or two studies or three studies. These are like many studies have been done to show that it does not exist. But these people will not hear what.
I've studied evolutionary biology quite a bit. And men and women are very different from not just a physical, the bone structure, the neurological department as well as the chemical balances. And also, I don't believe that men and women are equal under the law either, or they should be rather. Children are not equal under the law. And it's not because we hate children, it's because we love them and we want to protect them.
So if you believe we're not equal, then that you're
he has a point. Although there's how he made that point, but he has a very good point. The point is, if two things are different, if two things have various differences, should they be treated the same under the law? I will argue no. You shouldn't treat things that are different the same under the law because they are different, so they should get different treatment. People often complain about double standard between men and women, how the same standard that applies to men do not apply to women, and how all of that needs to change. And I'm like, no, the reason why we have dual standard and what applies to men don't apply to women, and what applies to women do not apply to men, is because we are different. If we are different, if things are different, they should be treated differently. It goes without saying that if things are different, they should be treated differently. That's why we have laws that protect women's sports, for example. That's why we have certain laws that are made particularly to protect a particular group of people. Because we feel the need to protect them, because we feel that they should be protected. That is how the law works. But to just ignore all of that and be like, anyways, we are all the same, so the rule should just be uniform. It is going to lead to injustice to treat different people or equality, like we should be, or equity rather, who push this notion of equity. They recognize that we are not the same. They don't want to say it, but they recognize that we are not the same. And that if we are not the same rule should not apply to both of us because we have differences. They recognize that. And I think it is important to point that out.
inferring that one would be greater than the other.
Well, so let me
So that's what
chime in
I'm
with my
trying to-
perspective.
yeah.
As far as not being equal, I don't think that necessarily means inferior or superior. When it comes to certain things like roles like childbearing, a woman is going to be far more productive and a lot more nurturing than, say, a man. And when it comes to doing a lot more of the heavy lifting and the work, a man is probably going to be more suited for that role. And I don't think that makes them any better or worse. We are just built, created,
Differently.
and born different.
I would also like to elaborate. I am not saying that they are worse overall or better overall.
They complement
like
each other.
he said, yeah, they do.
They complement each other
You know,
beautifully.
They work very
And that's true. That's 100% true. That's why I knew from the get-go that I'm going to agree a lot more with those on the men's rights, side, because I know they are going to be greatly rational. I'm waiting for the part where I won't agree with them. I'm looking forward to that. But I know for the most part, I'm going to agree with those on the men's rights side of the divide. Because they make a lot of sense, right? We are different. We are just different. There are things that women excel at that men don't excel at. We cannot give birth. We are not good at nurturing. We are not good at, so many things. When it comes to relationship, women are highly relational. And for the most, like talking a lot. They like keeping a lot to themselves and stuff like that. That's what you see, when it comes to men and women. You see, those kind of differences, and people want to downplay that, but you can't downplay that because it is significant, right? It is significant. And when it comes to there's this particular one that Jordan Peterson highlighted, where he said women are more predisposed to negative emotion, so women are more likely to be depressed. This is a fact. You may not like the sound of it. It may not, it may not sit well with your view of equality between men and women. But when we are talking about equality, we should not be blind to differences. They exist, and you cannot downplay them or ignore them. Yeah. So let's continue.
very well together.
We
when
need
they
each
are
other for
working in that proper-
offspring. I mean,
yeah.
that's part of the beauty of it, and I think trying to equalize them and make them the same, and transition and all that, I don't believe is going to be the most conducive when it comes to the family raising children, but also just for overall well-being.
I want to note that you brought up children being unequal to adults. I just hope you weren't comparing women to children.
I mean, it was technically a comparison of women
Okay,
and children.
I don't need you to
suppose.
protect me. I just need you not to harm me. I can protect.
No, you need me to protect you. Because, yeah, and the person who is trying to harm you is also somebody that looks like me. You need it. I don't know why people talk like, God. Anyway, here we go.
Myself. I'm very capable of doing what I need to do. Okay?
Okay.
Sure. Sure. What is happening? Oh, this ad that keeps playing. I think the next time I'm going to just download these videos.
An incel.
100%. Of doing what I need to do. Okay?
Okay, sure.
100%.
I am an incel, or an incel advocate, I suppose. I don't hate women at all. I think we're different, and they have aspects that are superior to men as well. It's just very contextual on the subject.
Toxic masculinity is real.
Like, women should, I've seen this on TikTok. People keep making the point that women are being protected from other men, and stuff like that. Oh, women are being, what are we protecting women from? What do women need men's protection from? And I made a video where I was like, you need our protection from something as simple as the weather. You need our protection for so many things. There are so many natural forces that you need us to protect you from. You don't see it directly because these things have become like, we now have systems put in place. You now have jobs created that provide all of that for you, essentially. And those dominated by men. So you don't see it directly. You don't see it manifest directly. You don't see a man. When you think of who provides electricity for me, you don't see a man. You just see the electric company. When you say who protects me from criminals, you don't see a man. You see the police force. Who is protecting me from foreign invasion? You don't see a man. You see the military. That is the problem we have now in society. You're like, who is making life easy for me? You see companies that produce, certain goods and services, people working in tech, people, creating, new technology, inventors. That's what you see. You don't see that, the inventors are predominantly male. And you don't see that is how men are actually protecting and providing for you. That is the problem. When we have this conversation, less relational, right? And I think that is really the problem. And somebody might call it the weakness of capitalism. Fair. But I feel we've had so many systems put in place that have made us less relational. So we don't really understand the relationship we have with ourselves and how we are constantly interacting with one another and how much we need one another and how much it is a true statement that women need men. Because of this, what you now see is a corporate organization. What you now see is a corporate entity. You no longer see it as men, which dominates each and every one of those major, businesses, organization, industries, and what have you. It is dominated by men. So you don't see it as this is men providing you with all of this. This is men protecting you from the weather. This is men protecting you from heat. When you turn on your electricity, you think, the electric company is functioning. Not knowing that, no, men are working in the electric company to make sure that you have electricity. They are protecting you from the heat. So you think narrowly like, no, when I'm walking down the street by 2 a.m., I don't need a man. I don't need a man so that I will not be afraid. I just need them to leave me alone. And I'm like, even if men leave you alone, you will still need us to protect you from so many things. Because, one, we are the ones who have interest in so many of this, in providing so many of these services and Yeah, so many of these services and value that keeps you safe and help make your life easy. We are the ones who are interested in that. We have that we have that inclination to move towards that field. Men do. You understand? Why women have the inclination to move towards something else, to think, oh, I don't need you, is wrong. Is a wrong way of thinking. Because at the end of the day, you do need men. And for me, I feel that is one of the funny things we have to discuss right now in society. We have to decide if truly women need men. Like, really, is that what we are discussing now? If women actually, of course they do. And the same thing is in the same vein. Men need women. Right? This is not, I am not of those who will be like, oh, men, there are people who will be like, women need men, but men don't need women. I'm not in that camp. I think it goes both ways. We need each other. We need each other 100%. We cannot do without the other. Men need women. I mean, women need men for protection. That should be settled, done. We shouldn't be arguing about that. It is true. What is the question they asked this time?
Toxic masculinity is real.
Of course.
I think that toxic masculinity is definitely a real thing. It's kind of just the idea of what masculinity should be, but it goes wrong a lot of the times, saying that violence, sex, power, being a controlling person makes you a man.
I see it in very unfortunate places, like when the young men or boys in my family, even from like toddler age, are told, you shouldn't be crying, boys don't cry. And what that turns into, I see it when I'm in a bookstore and a guy who tries to get my number says, why y'all always gotta act like that? And he sincerely had this like cracking voice, like he was hurt, but it was an entitlement. And that's toxic masculinity. It's saying like, you don't realize how your behavior is harmful.
Telling men that they should not cry is not toxic masculinity. Men should not cry. Like, something that we've been told from big boys don't cry. It doesn't mean that there are no instances where in your closet, in your private space, you let out a few tears. But at least in public, you have to portray, you are supposed to be a symbol of strength. So you have to portray that strength. Yeah? If the woman is crying and the man is crying, who is going to console who? So you have to portray that. You have to embody the strength. You have to embody strength as a man. You have to embody strength, and strength is not in tears. When you see a man crying, you don't be like, "Oh, what a strong man." You see, Jesus Christ, get over yourself. Why are you crying? And there is nothing wrong in saying, see, it's fine if you're a man and you like to, just bawl your eyes out, like cry your eyes out. It's fine if that is you. Of course, I do not agree with it. But there is nothing wrong in a man believing that he should not cry, especially in public. There is nothing wrong with it. It doesn't make him toxic. It doesn't mean that he's bottling up emotions. It means he's not crying in public, period. You have to act, you have to portray strength. There is nothing wrong with being a man that wants to portray strength. It doesn't make you toxic. When you're talking about toxic masculinity, I don't think that is one of those things that are toxic about being a man or what men are expected to be in society.
What does toxic masculinity mean? Is it character traits? Is it upbringing?
The suppression of feeling for a lot of men, because throughout childhood, they're told man up. So because of that, there's a lot of repression. Repression then is usually channeled into anger for some people because they not always know how to express because they're told not to express.
So upbringing and
That's part of
environment.
it,
Okay.
yes.
But not something that's inherently a part of men.
No.
Okay.
I think that, when you're showing your emotions, especially to random people, random women in some cases, they will view you as weak. I was raised by a single mother. I love her. She's my mom. I love her. But I could have used being told to act like a man. I think back, there were some cases where I was too emotional, and that negatively affected how I, what to me. And,
May I ask a question?
Sure.
What is your definition of weak as a man?
Not being as forward as you could be, not being as, honest, or trying to be not as emotional as you don't need to be. You don't have to cry over a cut. I know, sometimes cuts hurt a lot, but sometimes it's necessary to be strong for the benefit of not just your.
Exactly. As a man, how do you build fortitude when you always cry? When you're a pansy, you just everything you're crying. Come on. When I was younger, it was something that I was told repeat, you will be flogged. Corporal punishment. You'll be flogged. And when you're being flogged, your friends will be looking at you and saying, don't cry. Don't cry. It's like a challenge. You don't cry. It's something that you don't cry. Like, I don't even know how else to put it. You don't cry as a guy. It's just be a man. Man up. Hold your emotion. Don't cry. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Call me toxic, but I don't think there's anything wrong in saying, as a man, you should not cry.
But for the people around you, it's fine to act emotional in certain cases, but I don't think it's fine to act that way with a woman. Maybe you have a really good friend and he sees you cry, he's your best friend and you're crying about something really personal. I think that's fine.
I feel like you're conflating two different situations, because you started off with saying a random person or even women. So it feels like, okay, this is a woman that you don't have a bond with or any type of relationship with. And then you mentioned, or in front of your best friend, that's okay to cry. Well, that woman could be your best friend. That, what?
Even I had to laugh. You see, this is why people in the red space often they are often right, like red pill community. I think they are right sometimes. It is clear, it is glaring that so many women don't understand men. They don't. And instead of trying to understand men, they're like, no, just don't be like that. I think that's what we see here. Especially when she said that woman can be your best friend. Even you don't mean it. You don't mean it, really. All right, if you say so.
So,
I don't think you
and
can be friends
again,
with a woman. So.
Yeah. Yeah, for the most part. I don't for the most part. I don't think you can be, let's not say friends. You can be friendly with women, you can be friends with a woman. But best friend. Best friend.
because you don't see us as equal, as you said before.
No, it's not that. You see, this is the problem. It's not because we don't see you as equal. It's because just this conversation alone can let you just give you an insight into why, for the most part, although there are women who get it, I'm not saying all women don't get it. There are women who get it, like understand the male dynamic, at least to a huge extent. But as a guy, to become friends with somebody, the person needs to understand you. The person needs to get you, need to know where you are coming from, need to know how you operate, need to know your feelings and everything, right? So if you have a female as a friend, for the most part, she will not understand you as a man. She will not understand why you are behaving the way you are behaving. She will not understand why you are acting this way. She will not understand so many of the male dynamics. And there are certain things you cannot tell her. Have you listened to jokes that men crack among themselves? Many women will find that offensive. Many women will find that repulsive. Like, what? But that's how that's how they behave, that's how they act. If we make you our best friend and we treat you like that, you're either a tomboy or you're not going to like it, essentially. So for the most part, it's really not possible. I'm not saying in like 100% it's not likely to happen, but it's easier to be best friends with a guy, I believe. It is easier to be best friends with a guy than it is to be with a girl. For me, I have brothers and I have a sister. It is easier for me to relate with my brothers, to communicate with my brothers, to tell my brothers stuff than it is to talk with my sister. And I'm very close with me and my sister, we are close. But I will not consider her my best sibling or something like that. Even the same thing with friends. I have so many female friends, but the people who, when it comes down to it, that when I have real issues that I will go to, are men. because they understand. It's just what it is. It's not because we don't feel like, oh, this woman is not. And that is usually what women often think. The reason why these men will not be best friends with us is because they feel like we are inferior. No, it's that you will not understand us. Just like we will not understand you. There are so many things about women that men cannot, like we cannot wrap our head around. So many of your obsessions, we don't even understand them. We are like, why is this person acting like this? Why is this thing so important to this person? I've dealt with so many, I've had dealings with so many women, and so many of the things they talk about, I'm like, why is this thing important? Like, why is this a big deal? I don't get it. So how will I be your best friend when I don't even get what you're like? I don't even get it. A lot of things about you I don't get. That is the reason why we, for the most part, it's hard to find men and women that will be, okay, yeah, this is my best friend. They might say so, like, oh, this is my best friend in words. But when you observe them, you realize that the person who is really the best friend to this guy is another guy. The person who is actually the best friend to this girl is another girl. Except you are dealing with a tomboy or a Jane girl.
I don't think showing emotions is a sign of weakness. I actually think it's a sign of strength. Men do live shorter lives, and that's because of a...
It's not true. You see, this is the thing. Women, this is one thing I have. Let me not say women. People in general is one thing I've learned. People like saying things because it sounds nice. But when the rubber hits the road, that's when you realize that everything they just said is nonsense. Absolute. Even they don't believe it. They say it. You know, there's this what we call mental assent. That's all. Mentally, they agree with it. But practically, they don't. These women that will be like, emotion is a show of strength. Let them meet a man that cries a lot and you see complain. I don't like him. He cries a lot. I don't like him. He's showing emotion too much. I've had, there was one time I was talking to a female friend of mine and I told her that this is one thing about you guys that you people don't understand. You say you want men to be vulnerable, but when they are vulnerable, you will be the first to complain. I don't like this. This man is always, can he not man up? You'll be the one saying he should man up. You don't really believe it. At the end of the day, maybe some women do, but most of them, I am pretty sure they don't. You don't really think showing of emotion is a show of strength. You don't.
Repression of emotions, and that's due to many things that patriarchy has instilled.
Repression of emotions.
It has been shown that a person's well-being, their lifespan is shortened when they are not able to express their emotions. In addition, when they don't have physical touch or when they don't have a partner to keep them company. We are human beings here. We need to talk to each other. And if you think that our health isn't affected when you're not able to express that you are sad or upset, you're wrong. I think that men's rights activists are only men's rights activists as a response to women expressing that they want more equality. I don't think they focus on actual men's rights issues, and rather it's just an attack on women and feminism.
I thought you're going to address the thing you just said about emotion and how it is important to show emotion, blah, 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 how it is important to show emotion and how people die at 25 because they did not cry. You know, I thought you were going to, you're going to elaborate on that. What do I think? Is it true that, men probably don't live long because they don't show emotion? Men don't live long for a couple of reasons. Men are they like taking stupid risk. Jesus Christ, we do it a lot. That's probably one of the reasons why we don't live long. Right? Many men that I have known don't like going to the hospital. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why we don't live long. There's so many reasons. Okay? It doesn't mean we are toxic. And you should, Jesus Christ, don't do this because if you do this, you are not going to live long. There's something we say in Nigeria, something must kill a man.
Women have more advantages than men.
I can speak from a hiring standpoint when it comes to things like affirmative action, and there are certain roles that traditionally men and women have been able to serve in, and now women can basically do all of those things, right? Because we've had such a strong advocacy for equal representation in the workplace, whereas, for example, you'll never find a man as a midwife nurse, and I don't think it's appropriate. That's why there are those differences.
Women in the most important parts of society have an advantage. There's a lot of positions that men simply aren't getting hired at anymore because of the fact that they're a man. And it's not just in the workforce, it's also, I would say, it's a lot easier for a woman to find a relationship, even if she, says finding the right guy is so hard. It really isn't. But sometimes for a lot of guys, finding a girl at all is hard.
Okay, this is what I have to say. Do men and women who have it easier? I would say the women, but I will not complain about it. I don't know if you understand. Like, yes, I believe women have it. Sorry, I had to check something behind me. I believe women have it a lot more easier than men, but I don't think it's something to complain about. It's how it should be. That's just how I see it. That hard for you even in the 1960s? How difficult was it for you guys? Oh, we were not allowed to vote. Having right, if that has ever occurred to any of these people, that having any of these things is not equivalent to, oh, it means I am having it easier now. Because these things come with responsibility. A lot of responsibility. Rights are always they correspond with responsibility. Right? When you have a job, it means you can now fend for yourself. When you have a job, it means now you cannot rely on someone else. Which means prior to when you didn't have a job, you were reliant on someone. Which is more important? Which is easier, relying on someone else and relying on yourself? Being self-reliant I think you can make the argument that when you are someone else's responsibility, it is easier. I believe that. But now you have 2-income households. Which will you prefer to be in a 2-income household or in a 1-income household where the man earns enough? Which do you think you want to be in? Which do you think many women will go for? Women want it easy, and it is not I don't have an issue with it. I have no issue with it. What I just want is for them to at the very least, acknowledge it. I believe that by design, men should take up the hard stuff. For the most part, life should not just be handed to men on a silver platter. We should not have a bed of roses as men. We should bear a lot of the burden in society. A lot of the burden should be placed on us in society for the most part. And I believe that's one of the calling a man have, to bear the burden of society, a huge portion of it, most of it. The heavy lifting in society should be done by us, and we should handle it without complaint. But the problem is when other women are not handling that, they should recognize that a man doing that is important at the very least, and it is being done by men, and it makes the position of men in society important, relevant, useful, and indisposable. But the problem here is, you see, especially in today's conversation amongst feminists, is they try to undermine the achievement and the accomplishment and the work of men. They make it look like, oh, the reason why men are handling this job is because the patriarchy said so. Let them allow women to handle it. Okay, do you think it is which do you think will be beneficial to women if men handle all the heavy lifting, or if men share the heavy lifting amongst women and say, okay, you two self join in the heavy lifting? Which do you think is beneficial to women, and which do you think is beneficial to society? When you have a woman who gives birth, who is going to raise children, and then you put her in the war front, you put her in harm's way by letting her be in law enforcement, letting her in the battlefield. I'm not saying that they cannot function properly well in those areas or anything like that. I'm just saying I believe it is better if men handle that part of society, while women handle the part that they are physically capable of handling. Based on how we are biologically built, I think it is safe to come to the conclusion that based on just our biology alone, men should handle the hard stuff. Look at how we are built. We are built to do that. And women should handle things that are easier. So in that sense, society should be structured to make life easier for women. It should be structured that way. I will argue that society should be structured to make life easier for women. And when that is the case, women should be grateful. And men should stop complaining. 2 things. Men, don't complain. Women, be grateful. Men also, carry out your duty. Have a sense of duty. Go through life ready and eager to assume responsibility. And I don't see it as something to complain about, like I said before. It's not something that men's rights activists should, oh no, life should be easier for us. So I think it's just unmanly to complain like that. You should expect it. Life should not be easy for you as a man. There's a saying in Nigeria that to be a man is not a day's job. It is a difficult job. And men are you are when you are coming up in Nigeria, you are told as a man, be ready to do the hard stuff. We can all make an argument, which I think these women will try to make, which is the argument that because men are that manifest, we are men who have this great responsibility put upon them, and as a result, have to wield, some degree of authority, get to abuse it. So then the argument should be, how do we ensure that men do not abuse their power? But there will never be a universe. I don't believe that there will ever be a universe where the most powerful will not be men. I don't think it will exist that there will ever be a universe where the most powerful will not be men. These people have the capacity. What are you competing with them for? Like, have you seen the physical difference that you have with these people? There will never be that society, I believe that. Basically, yes, biology is playing a crucial role here. You cannot undermine the biological difference. You cannot undermine that, and that has put men in a better position. So now the question we should ask ourselves in society is, how do we ensure these people don't abuse that power? That's why you have laws that protect women. Okay? But to say... The problem I have with this conversation is women will, especially not women, feminists will not admit. They will not. They will never. They will rather become something else than admit that, one, they have it easy. Two, they should have it easy. Three, it won't be possible for them to be the most powerful. I really believe it won't. We've had matriarchies. In Ghana, we had a matriarchy. We still have. Ghana is the Ashanti tribe, as to the best of my knowledge, run a matriarchy. Right? When a child is born, the child bears the mother's name. Right? In the Ashanti Empire, the queen mother is the kingmaker. Right? Yet they still know that the power still lies with the men, despite the fact that this is like ceremoniously a matriarchy. When it comes to the tiny details, where you look at how things really operate, you discover, no, the real holders of power here are the men. And this society is a society that tried to create a matriarchy. But because of the level of power men have to wield, because of the responsibility men have to take themselves having more power, you are a slave.
If I have to consider what I wear before stepping out the house, because I don't want to draw some type of attention, I don't know how many other men have to consider.
That is all. That is all you have to deal with in this life. That is all you have to deal with. Thinking of what to wear before. Listen, I'm not undermining the fact that, rape, sexual harassment is a thing. I'm not saying it is not. But because I know the men's rights activists are about to mention the things men have to deal with on a daily basis because of the level of responsibility that is being placed upon us, that we have to assume because of our biological makeup. It will be shameful. This is one thing people don't understand, especially feminists. It will be shameful. I consider it shameful for a man to sit back and not assume his position in society and just be like, hey, my wife is going to do it, or I'm going to let the women do it. I'm like, are you not ashamed of yourself? You, a man with all this strength and all this energy and all this capacity and all these potentials that you possess, you're just going to sit back and not do anything? But of course, we should all know that it is not easy. One of the deadliest things that can ever happen to a human being is for them to have to decide how they should dress when they are leaving the house. It is very serious, guys. You should not play with that.
Is this outfit going to be deemed safe for me? Any situation that I have experienced where Like, I physically felt endangered simply because I don't want to give my number out. It's part of that entitlement for men. You're not entitled a conversation with me. You're not entitled to my number.
That aside, it's like, are you going to make one example of the entitlement of men when it comes to asking for your number be the all-encompassing thing that all men have a problem when it comes to approaching women?
Well, firstly, it's not just an example. It's not necessarily all men. I don't dislike men. I love sports. I play video games. I hang out with dudes. We just want men to realize that if you have friends that are having locker room talk, as a man, as an ally, please say something to your friends.
Do you think we're press-based?
There's nothing
I don't think
healthy
that's
about
healthy. I think it's
No, I'm
toxic
not-
in itself.
I mean, if you're making jokes and you're doing all of that.
Jokes that are harmful jokes are not healthy because they just lead to people normalizing things. People always say, oh, it's just a joke, but when someone else hears it, they don't realize how that resonates, and again, how that turns into violence. Like, this is not a...
Yeah, of course. 1 minute you are joking about it, the next minute you are doing it. We all know that's how it works, guys. 1 minute you're just joking about something, and the next minute you are doing it, right? Because, men don't know how to separate jokes from reality. Jesus Christ, you guys should check this. As in, this lady they should take a chill pill. Calm down. It's not that serious. Locker room talks is your problem. When we hear locker room conversation, we should be the killjoy and be like, no. You shouldn't be talking about that, because the next thing you know, from saying it, the next thing you know, men are going to go out in the street and start acting it out. Like, women, do you think there is a man on the planet who doesn't know that sexual violence is wrong? Do you think there's a man out there who does not understand that thing is wrong? You think there are people who don't understand that you should not beat a woman, you should not hit a woman? You think there are people who don't understand that? You think those people who end up, committing these acts against women, you think they don't know that it is wrong? You think these men it just so happened that they're just so... What do you take these people for? Any man who is doing most of these things that they are doing, I mean, the ones who are going out causing this harm in society, they know fully well that what they are doing is wrong and unacceptable. There is no person, the vast majority of men do not hear about sexual violence and be like, yeah, that's my man. That's what we discussed in the locker room. No. They're like, this is terrible. This is abhorrent. This should not happen. To make it look like somehow people will not be able to differentiate between a joke and what is real, is just, come on.
Isolated situation. I'm only thinking of 3 off the top of my head, because if I think of too many, I'm gonna spiral
So
right now.
what's the alternative? Men shouldn't talk about these things.
No, I think men
one's
can
ever
have a
said
healthy
that.
dialogue. I don't think men have to be toxic in order to have a conversation. I know plenty of men that are able to have conversations about healthy, productive things, just like women are.
Well, it's not obviously something that I have personal experience with, but only 1% of all people on the death row are women in this country. So when women and men commit identical crimes, women are much more likely to, for example, escape the death penalty. And that's just plain sex-based discrimination.
That I agree on.
That's true. Look, I'm thinking about basic needs, like around the globe, the women who don't even have like proper like sanitary like products.
I mean,
One thing I like about people who like to bring this stuff up, they live in first world countries. Those countries that you hear that women don't have access to female hygiene products. Do you think the men are living hygienic lives themselves? You think the men are living, in luxury, so much luxury that they cannot afford to buy sanitary pads? Go to those places and see how the men there are living. When you see how the men there are living, then you realize, now we understand why these women cannot afford sanitary pads. The living condition there in general is bad. And this is the reason with this is why I hate identity politics so much. It divides people. It is divisive. That's one. And second, it does not help address issues. When you make an issue about gender, then first of all, you isolate a particular gender, you make them the enemy, right? And then you fail to recognize that there is an overarching problem. There is an umbrella condition that has made these women, experience this kind of suffering. And that same condition that is making women experience this level of suffering has something that it is doing to the men too. So to deal with the general problem will be beneficial for both men and women. And that's why you see all these organizations, they will go and be like, oh, we are distributing 1,000 sanitary pads. Yeah, but they're not solving the problem, because what is making women not be able to access sanitary products is poverty. And poverty that is affecting women not being able to access sanitary products, what do you think is doing to the men? You think men are immune to poverty? We have poverty immunity? Of course not. So if you deal with poverty in those communities, they will not have that issue. But instead of us talking about poverty, what do we talk about? Women don't have access to sanitary pads. And I'm like, yeah, that's why the problem remains, that women don't have access to sanitary, because you are dealing with sanitary pads instead of dealing with poverty. Talk about areas where women cannot walk safe at night. What is the real problem? Insecurity. That is the real problem. Insecurity. People talk as if men are able to walk out freely by 2 a.m. Of course, you may be mugged. You may lose your life as a man. You may get shot. That same insecurity that leads to a man getting mugged is the same insecurity that will lead to a woman getting raped. But instead of dealing with the problem of insecurity, you say, oh, you see, women, we are always at risk. We are always not safe. And I'm like, how do we solve the problem of insecurity when we make it about gender? We will not. We make it look like it is a unique, the problem is really so unique. No, it affects us in unique ways, but it is still the same problem. It's just one problem. We are just feeling it in different ways. If we can be able to attack that one problem, every symptom of it will disappear. Let's stop fixating on symptoms and deal with the actual problem. But we don't do that. We don't do that anymore in society, especially when identity politics come to play.
I have to agree. Just small things like a tax on a box of tampons. Do you think I choose to do this monthly? No, trust me. So why should I have to pay taxes when this is a medical necessity?
We're just like dismissed. A lot of our symptoms, a lot of the things we report, especially women of color, but women across the board, are just treated a lot less equally.
You're paying tax for buying sanitary products. You know what else you should not be paying tax for? What about for feeding? Jesus Christ. I'm about to... This is annoying as hell. Oh, God, this is freaking annoying. You pay for sanitary product. Let's say there's extra tax for that. I don't know how that operates in the West. I don't live there. But for me, this is essentially just complaining that you have to buy sanitary product. You know what else you have to do? You have to eat. It is a biological condition to be hungry. Why should you pay tax for every food you buy? Value-added tax. I mean, is it your fault that you have to get hungry? Why don't you? What? What really? You're going to complain about the fact that you pay tax for buying, you pay value-added tax for buying sanitary products. Don't you pay a value-added tax for buying clothes? I don't really understand this complaint. It doesn't make sense.
I'd say that I'm an advocate for what I believe.
I do consider the rights of every human, but every time I hear of a men's rights activist, I hear anger and I hear very illogical reasoning, and it just boils my blood.
What have you had so far that is illogical? I don't even understand. What has been said so far by the men's rights activists, these men's rights activists? What have they said so far that is illogical? What have they said? You just don't agree with it because you are stuck in your own, whatever it is you believe is your problem. And thus far, these men have not mentioned so many things that they think is a big problem, other than the fact that one of them mentioned the fact that most men are more likely to get harsher sentences than women. Other than that, they've not even made any complaint about this is the right we want. They've not even aired anything that I will classify as frustration. They've not done any of that. For the most part, these men have sat down and listened to you. They've listened. Check who've been speaking more. It has been the women. Yet you hear anger. Where did you see it? God.
Because it's a setback for all of us.
I feel that the other side does not understand my values.
100%.
think a lot of times when a movement is created, the other side thinks that they're being attacked or think that it's some like attempt at erasure. That's not what feminism is about at all. What do you need a whole men's rights activism movement for? I'm sincerely confused.
Well, I mean, like, I will advocate for positive masculinity and what men should represent and healthy outlets for men. Like, I still think the Boy Scouts should be exclusively the Boy Scouts, for example, one of those things. Where I would like to think that we could get some common ground is when it comes to the clear biases that are in the court system, especially in the marriage and family court system, right? And right there is what I would advocate for when it comes to men's rights.
The things that stand valid, like that I'm hearing from y'all that are like valid to me, come from a place of like, I am treated like unfairly by the system, versus a lot of the things women are saying. It's also America and the system as well, but a lot of it is like harm from men.
How and where?
How and where what?
Where's this harm from men coming from?
Okay, it started when I was young. I'm not gonna talk too long. I was 16, got a bottle thrown at me because I told a boy no. It started when I was in a club, a boy touched me. I said no, he kept touching me, got to the point he got violent. I talked about earlier is because he realized my husband was not too far away. And he said, sorry, bro, never said sorry to me. That's why, and that's off the top of my head. This is why I get upset, because I'm like, I'm here to talk about like how you feel, but when you just dismiss the fact that women actually have.
Nobody has done that. Please, guys, has any of these men done the thing she's accusing? Like, nobody is saying your experience is not valid. And nobody is saying it doesn't happen to women. You see Complaint Festival. If we are to hold Complaint Festival, it will not end. We'll do it. Everybody will talk about the things they've experienced in life. You know, a man will talk about the day he went out and the sun was shining on his head. Maybe the sun is also a part of the patriarchal system that is keeping both men and women down. He can tell you all the things he has to deal with. If we want to do the complaint party, we can do it. And I'm not dismissing your experience that, you know, yeah, a man did that to you. It's true. It happens. Okay? I've had ladies, you know, tell this story repeatedly. It's true. It happens. It shouldn't happen. We don't want it to happen. We wish it would not happen, but it happens. Sorry that it happened to you. Okay? It does not negate the fact that there are rights that men can advocate for that they want. Rights for men that, you know, should be given to them. It doesn't negate that men can also suffer from a system that is not men inflicting harm on men. Okay? I mean, the biases in the court, is it men inflicting it on their fellow men? The biases that we see in divorce court, especially with everything that has to do with the Marriage Rights Act and you know, all whatnot, especially in Nigeria. I don't know the law that is controlling that in the West, but in Nigeria it's called the Marriage Rights Act. All those, you know, provisions in the law that are detrimental to men or do not, you know, that do not protect the interest of men and kind of put them in a losing situation. You think men should not advocate for that because a guy harassed you in the bookstore? I don't understand. And a guy harassed you when you were 5 years old. How is there a clip that was caught in between? Like I've been saying so far, it's mostly the women that are doing the talking. I don't see the guys talking. Yet the women are like, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm like, you guys are the ones talking. The men are not even saying so much.
Experiences, that's when it seems like it's about more than your rights. It seems like it's about your ego. And that's where I get pissed off. Because how dare you tell another human being that their experiences, what they're telling you right in front of your face, is not valid.
I didn't say they were invalid. I said how and why. I'm trying to understand.
How and why? Because it happened. It happened many times. It happened yesterday. It happened the day before.
Okay, I think some of the things that you guys are touching on, such as the court system and gender roles, are...
Somebody just asked you a question and you're like, oh, you are dismissing my experience because how dare you ask me a question? If you ask me a question, you are dismissing my experience. That's this lady's, like I said, they have been the one talking. Yeah, they have been the one complaining that the men have been saying. What are the men saying? The men have been saying so much by not saying so much. Interesting.
A subject of patriarchy, and that's part of what women are trying to dismantle, is those traditional gender roles.
Are there any feminist organizations that have done anything, for example, to challenge bias against men and fathers in the family court system?
Absolutely.
Can you please give me like a list of feminist advocacy organizations that have engaged in any meaningful advocacy to address those issues, because there are actually none?
Okay. I know that you came with your little research or whatever. I didn't come with a list of like feminist organizations, but I know actively that there are women's organizations that are trying to dismantle those inequalities.
Just one name, just one
Again, I
organization.
didn't come with a list.
Then don't make assumptions. Don't make claims that you cannot back up. Don't tell me you know and then I'm like mention one and you're like I didn't come with a list off the top of my head. I can't mention one. Then don't say it. If you cannot back it up, then don't say it.
There are no such organizations.
Again,
In what ways are men's rights at risk?
I think there has been significant progress over the last decade or so, especially in the legal field. But I think there are still significant disparities that need to be addressed, such as poor health conditions, bias against men in the criminal justice system, bias against men in family courts, and bias against men in the educational system, especially in colleges.
Yeah. As in that, this one he mentioned, especially the one in the educational system. I mean, these days that part of that industry is being run by is being run by leftists. Let me not say women, but mostly women sympathizers. Jesus Christ, I don't know how guys, man. The education system is not like the education. People need to understand this, that by design, the educational the system of education, everyone in every country is not designed for men. Like most men I know are practical people. Like they like to be practical. They like to like they're not used to sitting in one place, receiving lecture, going home, doing your assignments, reading up at home, and then coming back. Some men can do that, but most men don't. The male angst just want to go out into the world and explore stuff. So this sitting in one place, sitting on a desk, writing stuff down, paying attention, and repeating what you are being told, regurgitate. It doesn't work well for men, and their temperament, most of them, I'm not saying all of them, right? For the most part, men don't really excel under that condition. But most women do well under that condition. When are we going to talk about that? That's why you see boys are failing in schools. That's why you see it's as if the educational sector is just being overtaken by women. And no one wants to address that. That's a fair point. That is something that's a fair point to point out. That's something that is fair to point out. I say, look, this is not fair for men. Can we restructure the educational system to accommodate the masculine temperament, the temperament that wants to explore? And you might say, okay, well, there are certain courses that you can major in that allows for that. But what about in primary and secondary education, where most of what these students, especially when they are young and they are guys, when they are the most active, then you are compelling them to sit in one place. That's pretty, What do the feminists have to say about that? Is this also the problem of the patriarchy? Is it the patriarchy who created these things as well?
Men and women should be allies.
men, unfortunately,
Men and women should be allies. Men and women are allies. Feminists and men are not allies. They will not be allies. Feminists and men don't get along. That is like they don't. But men and women, they are allies. They are always, you see, all this talk about feminism is just, for me, I feel in the real world, when you go to the real world, you see men and women cooperating. You see men and women being allies for the most part, right? It's when we come to mostly on the internet and in all this academic discourse and social media and mainstream media that you see people try to pitch men against women. But for the most part, throughout history, the story of human history has been the story of collaboration between men and women. That is what it has been. No matter how many times the feminists want to make it look like, no, that's not what the story has been. It has been a story of men being powerful and women being subjugated and oppressed. That has not been the case. It has for the most part been a story of collaboration, a story of allyship. They can and they do. And when you see a healthy society, a healthy family, a healthy couple, that is what is going on. Men and women are collaborating. Is when we now when we have this kind of discourse that you now see people start being impractical and start coming up with lofty fairy tales that they call ideologies that just don't have any bearing with reality. But for the most part, men and women are allies.
Many of them don't want to even have this open dialogue that we're sharing right now. We need men to help be allies, to help speak to other men.
It strikes me like the way you phrase this, you almost want men to say certain things that you want them to say, as opposed to maybe actually listening to what they're saying.
What certain things would I want to
Just
hear?
kind of like men being allies, men talking to other men, etc. I'm completely okay with that, but I'm not going to repeat like feminist talking points to other men.
We all believe different things. We may be under the label of men's rights activists, but for example, I'm probably the most traditionalist person here. I think we should be allies, but maybe us being allies in a patriarchy wouldn't be so bad. You know, us going back to the past wouldn't be so bad. It would probably be a lot happier if we were, you know, getting married and staying married and having kids and, you know, going to church and all that, la-di-da-di-da.
While speaking.
They're going to eat that fat guy raw. They're going to like pounce on his flesh. What? You want us to go to the past? Listen, there are some things about the past that are nice, but not all of it. There are so many things that were applicable in the past that I don't want us to go back to. Okay? I don't want us to go back to the past where lobotomy was a thing, right? You know. I don't want us to go back to the past when I even don't want us to go back to the past when women didn't have the right to vote. Not everything about the past is all lovely and nice, and we should just go back to everything. You know, the problem is that people they don't want to improve the system. They want to dismantle it, which is what you hear feminists talk about when they talk about dismantling the patriarchy, whatever that is. People don't want to, improve the system, upgrade the system, make the system better, fix certain flaws things that are valid flaws in the system. They don't want to fix it, they want to destroy it. And that is my problem with feminism, is that it wants to destroy Western civilization. All these movements, most of them are at the extreme form of it. The extreme form of it is just dismantling of Western civilization and being anti-progress that the West have been able to achieve. That's what I see.
The three of you, I feel like you're each coming from different perspectives. So it's hard to, again, just like our perspectives, it's hard to generalize. So to me, I feel like there are certain things that, even though we're not fully agreeing on it, things may get lost in translation, our verbiage may not be 100% correct, that we could at least agree on.
Can I ask one question? What would you envision would be the ideal man with the end goal of feminism, as far as educating men or working to dismantle whatever patriarchy is? Like, what does that man look like?
It starts with childhood. We have to teach children as well as girls, because we're also taught, because of toxic masculinity.
My dear, answer the question. You are straying. Answer the question. Leave, even as girls. Answer the question.
As well.
I think that we just need to hold men accountable. In order to kind of make progress, we need help from people that will listen. Because let's be real, when we express our concerns, a lot of men refuse to listen, but they would be more likely to listen to another man.
Do you also feel like you have an ethical obligation to challenge other women or other feminists when, for example, they deny that men face discrimination?
When it comes to things like, men can't be abused, I've had this conversation with another woman, and it's the idea that just because a man may be physically stronger than us, does that mean they cannot be abused? Because of that, again, fairness, women need to be held accountable as well. I want to understand their viewpoint. As a woman,
this black woman that just spoke, right, that just finished speaking right now, Bia is her name, I think, and I think she's been the most reasonable, calmly spoken, even though I don't think she answered the question that man asked, which is, if what is the vision of masculinity under feminism? What do feminists see? What is the ideal man under feminism? And I don't think she really answered that question. Any of them answered that question. And I think it's a very important question because, If you think men are toxic, men are problematic, men are this, what is your ideal man? What does he look like? Who should he be? What are his values? What should he advocate for? What should he stand for? What should he look like? What is your vision for the man you want under this feminist movement, this feminist mindset? What should a man look like? For me, I feel feminism does not really have any vision. Like, they talk about men being the problem, but is it really something that I'm curious to know? What do they think a man should look like? What do they think men should look like? What do they think men should embody? What is an ideal man for you, feminist?
I feel empathy for the other side.
I don't think there's ever a time in my life where a person says they're hurting and I don't at least try to listen or understand.
My lady, no. No, I don't even say that thing you just said. This is the lady that was asked a question and she wanted to explode. No, I don't think she has been listening. And this is the same lady who said that men's rights is just people who are hateful and people who are not happy with the progress that women have made so far in society. This is the woman who said that everything she has said so far has been dismissive of the men's rights movement. That's what she has said so far. Now she's like, oh, I've never seen it myself ever in my life where I hear people complain about stuff and I've never been empathetic. Nay, you just showed lack of empathy repeatedly because you are so sucked in your own problem. You are so sucked in it that you cannot even imagine the other person having a problem. That is essentially what you've been saying repeatedly throughout this video. That has been your talking point throughout. You are so sucked in your own problem. Whatever it is you believe that is going wrong with you, that you cannot even see what the other person is going through. I like, when it comes to feminism, I recognize the fact that women don't feel safe in society. I recognize the fact that there are societies that still don't give women certain basic rights. And I think in those cases, feminists have a point. Okay, I believe that. I believe that we should have a world where women can move out freely and not be afraid of getting attacked. Get into a bus. Like, there's this one I see, there's a busy city, busy market in Lagos called Oshodi Market. And when women are passing through that place in certain corners of the market, they get really harassed, and that is bad. Like, that is really bad. I see it and I'm disgusted by it. And I'm like, this is wrong. This should not happen. The only way many ladies are able to avoid that is moving with a man, or at least checking what they are wearing and making sure that, they look like what we call in Nigeria, Mary Amaka. You dress, to cover everything. Only then will some of these men, even then, some of them will still not respect themselves. I've seen this happen and I think it's problematic. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. The solution, however, is where we differ. Somehow the solution is, it's because there's something that these men are telling themselves. It's not all men that are like that, first of all. Many of the men who are doing that know that like I said, many of the men who are doing that don't think, I'm doing this and it is the right thing for me to do. They know they are being miscreants. Many of these men are the same men who will mug you. Many of them are the same men who will do harmful things to other men. These are not exemplary men. And even if there are some people who we hold in high esteem in society who engage in such behavior, they don't engage in such behavior thinking that it is part of what it means to be a man. This is exemplary, except you are Andrew Tate. Except you are the Andrew Tate kind that believe, yes, I am entitled to this. And that is a problem. If there are such men in society, that is a problem. I would agree with you on that. But to lump it all and make it look like it is all men, and this is a problem of masculinity in general, is wrong. These are free, like the people, you should understand that the people you are complaining about do not represent the majority of men. This is a fringe minority, believe it or not. This is not all men. And amongst women as well, you have a fringe minority of them that are dealing with men. I've heard stories of what women have done to men. Jesus. We'll talk about falsely accusing men of rape. That is something that happens repeatedly. And I've seen men lose so much because of that. Are we going to talk about that? Are we going to talk about women who exploit men emotionally? Or are we going to act like that does not happen too? It happens. So we can see that on both sides, both men and women can take advantage of each other. Men and women can take advantage of the system to the detriment of someone of the other sex. We can do that. What is the solution? We find a way to fix the system so no mischievous person from either side can exploit it. Instead of saying men are the problem or women are the problem, we say no, there is a problem in society that is affecting men, that is affecting women, we fix it. Instead of, and this attitude of, as a woman, a man have nothing to complain about. Like I said, I don't like men who complain. It's not because I don't think men don't have things to complain about. It's just because, yes, there are so many things you should complain about, but I believe in just fixing them. Find a way to fix it. You are a man, it is your calling to fix things. So try and look for ways to fix them instead of crying about them. That is why I hold that view. But it's not because I don't think that there are valid reasons for men to complain. Meaning that men have things to complain about, but shouldn't. In the same vein, women, of course, we are open to hearing what your complaints are because we as men will want to fix it. And that is why so many of the so-called progress that women, feminists especially, claim to have achieved is because of men. It is. I know you will not like the sound of this because we don't need men. These men are. It's because of men. The right to vote. That legislation was passed by men. Any right that you enjoy was passed by men. If men were so bad, how come they were giving you these rights? If men are the problem, then how come they were legislating these rights? Even the right to abortion that you people believe exists in the US, especially those in the United States. The people who decided that the Roe v. Wade decision that was overturned was decided by predominantly male judges. And that is what men do. We fix things. So we should not do this, we versus them thing and make it look like one thing is don't be so encapsulated in your own problem that you cannot see the problem of someone else. Don't be like that. Be somebody who can, yes, I have a problem, but I see the problem. I see where you are coming from. And this lady has not demonstrated, has not behaved that way throughout this conversation.
My only thing is that I want the same in return. So when I'm genuinely saying I'm hurting or I've been through something, and it's not just a personal experience because I actively do this work and surround myself with women saying I've been hurt by a man before. I get that you have stories, but that's actually my question. I haven't heard y'all stories.
But I thought you said everything you've had so far is them complaining. They've not said, that is what I've said so far. They've not said anything because you people have been doing most of the talking.
I've sat up here and said I have 3 on the top of my head. I have about 30 plus probably. And I haven't heard y'all say this is what happened to me.
I don't think that I'll ever invalidate a woman's feelings when she says, hey, I've been abused or whatnot. I don't think any of us here are rightfully saying that. But I think what's dangerous is when emotional testimony that may not always be what it is gets, creates bias, right?
Okay. I feel empathy for women being lost, being misguided. Look, I don't know. You can go.
Do you have any bit of...
I know what he wanted to say. I knew what he wanted to say. Feminism have destroyed women. That's essentially what he wanted to say. And it is true. I see it, especially when you see some of them talk. I'm like, my dear, you are lost. Like, whatever it is that they've told you have damaged your brain. It has damaged your brain. It has made you unable to enjoy life. You see them on social media all the time, complaining about the least unreasonable thing. Like, this ideology, especially feminism, damages the brain of the people who accept it. It's like a brain cancer, brain tumor. And now, of course, I'm not talking about some of this milder version of feminism, this feminism light that some people subscribe to. I'm talking hardcore feminism, okay? It is brain wrecking. not helpful, even for the women who buy into it. I mean, talk about the sexual revolution, talk about hookup culture. Are this not an offspring of feminism? Talk about transgenderism. Is it not an offshoot of the idea that men and women are the same? Who is that affecting the most? Women. There's something I always say. I say when the society is good, women enjoy the most. When the society is bad, women suffer the most.
Empathy for anything we said up here?
Yes, I really do feel empathy for
Why was that so hard to say? Like for the stuff that we said, do you have any bit of empathy for the stories I said up here?
Yeah,
I just want to know.
I do.
Like I'm not.
Why do you want to eat him raw? Like this fat guy, they are going to devour his skin. They are going to suck the fat out of his body. They are going to take his bone and suck out the bone marrow. By the time they are done with him, there will be no flesh in his body.
Even trying to be hostile, I just genuinely want to know.
Yeah, I just think that like a lot of the problems that have happened.
And he
here-
comes off as a little bit obnoxious. I'm going to grant it to this woman. He comes off as a little bit greatly. His demeanor is kind of annoying. Come on, it is.
in life are because society is not patriarchal. It's not traditional. It's we're gone. We're lost. We're in a fallen state, right?
There is a change of guard, not necessarily a change of guard, but things are evolving, things are changing. And I feel like a lot of men speak from a viewpoint almost of fear. A lot of men are having a hard time grasping that and feeling comfortable with it.
No, it's not. You see, like I said, women will interpret men, will interpret the behavior of men like women. You see what, and call me sexist or whatever, but that's how I feel these women are interpreting men's reaction to certain changes. It's not fear. It's concern, and it is concerning. Don't you look around you and be like, this change this progress, is it not concerning? I mean, look at what is happening. The decline in marriages and the increase in divorce rate, is it not concerning? I'm not saying it is the offshoot of feminism or whatever, but it is concerning. And maybe what is causing that is, I don't know, lack of traditional values. Maybe that is the case. Why don't we explore that? Why don't we consider the possibility that so many of the things we've adopted thus far in the name of progress can indeed be harmful, instead of we just saying, oh well, anybody who is complaining is afraid of change. I don't think that is what most of these men are saying when they say, this has gone too far. It's not fear, it's that this is concerning. There is a real problem here. It's not fear will make it look like it's a phobia, like, there is no grounds for it. But there are grounds to be concerned. There are real grounds. It's not a fear of change. People should not paint it like, oh, these men are complaining because they are afraid of change. No, it's not the case. There are valid reasons to be concerned. You cannot look around you, compare 1965 to 2023 and not be like, this current trend is concerning, the way things are going, God help us. So it's not because you are afraid of change. It's that this change, most of it does not look positive. It looks problematic.
I do feel empathy for your personal experience, but I cannot sympathize with your ideological position, because that ideological position is built on a fallacy, and that fallacy is actually causing very real consequences for men as a class in this country. So I understand that you are here with us as kind of the good feminist, so to speak, that you feel empathy for men, and I believe you, but I do not believe your movement, and I do not believe your ideology.
All right, we'll leave it at that. That's a wrap, guys.
I'm sweaty.
Okay.
You are very articulate.
Oh, thank
and
you.
so are you.
Yes,
Thank
so
you.
are
And
you.
it's been Turkey for a long time.
Thanks for your
Appreciate
time.
it.
Okay. Wow, that was interesting.
I mean, it went well, I guess. Yeah, it went well. Sorry, guys, that I was not looking at the chat. I wanted today's streaming to be different. I want to just focus on the content, react to it, and then when I'm done, I go through the chat and see what has been said thus far. I don't even know how many comments I'm going to go through. This is from King G. It is also written that the sin of one cannot be taken by another. And how is this statement and cannot be taken by another? Then how is the statement that I mentioned before possible? You guys are having internal wars in the comments. If there's any comment for me, let me have it. Any question you have, let me have it. Now is your moment. This is from Geographic Notes. Feminists complain about men and men's privilege, but they are allowing biological men compete and win in women's sport in the name of trans rights. Exactly. And there are feminists who claim that, oh, my feminism is not limited. It applies to women. I am feminist enough to embrace, it applies to men, trans women, like they like to call them. You know, my feminism is not limited. There are feminists who make that claim. And then feminists who are opposed to the whole trans ideology are called trans exclusionary radical feminist stuffs, you know, seen as bigots and all whatnot. Within the same feminist group, there is even not a cohesive movement, you know. And what other questions do you guys have? Let me look at the poll that I put up when I created this stream, when I scheduled this stream. It said, will there be technical issues on this live stream? And what are the results? Let me look at it from. What are the results? The result says All right, my sound is back. Sorry, guys, I had to deal with small technical issues. And more is to come. And more is to come. And more is to come. And the funny part is that I was about to talk about the poll where I said, would there be technical issues on this live stream? And of course, the answer is, as usual, is 25%. This will be different, 17%. And it doesn't matter, 58%. I'm grateful to each and every one of you who believe that it doesn't matter. Can you guys hear me now? I believe you can. Sorry, it's just my audio and I'm having issue with it. I'm having issues with it. Kind of problematic. I think I need to change my cord or something. There's a cord that I'm using that is having issues, which doesn't usually occur, but is occurring today. Yep. Thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you guys for sticking around through all the technical issues. Even when I had my audio disconnect twice, you guys were still with me. Somebody said there's still no audio. Is there still no audio? All right, thank you. So yes, audio issues is what we had today. Thank God it was not network issue. Although from what I'm seeing on my dashboard, there are a couple of network issues, but it is not affecting the stream that much, you know. Anyway, so thank you. Any question with regard to all the things we've discussed about feminism and all whatnot? If you have any question, let me have it. Let me hear them. Looking at the comments now, and there's literally nothing. So yeah, that's my take on the whole issue, my response to the whole thing. And with regards to the difference between men and women and men's rights and feminism. I'm not a huge fan of feminism, you know. And like the last guy said before the conversation ended, he said, I empathize with you guys. You guys look like the good feminists, but I know that most of the people in your movement are not like you guys. And you guys' movement is, especially feminism, is predicated on fallacies, is built on fallacies, and that is a fair statement to make. Feminists believe, for the most part, that there are no differences between men and women, and that's their understanding of equality, or men and women being equal. And I'm all for equality, but I don't think we have to lie to ourselves to make someone else feel good in the name of equality, right? We cannot ignore differences between men and women in the name of equality. We cannot act like women are not different. We cannot act like men are not, when it comes to physical strength, superior. We cannot act like we don't have different interests, and how all of those interests and temperaments play into who we are, the roles we assume, the level of success we achieve, you know, and how our system is built on the ability, how our system, or any system, any of them, is built to reward those who assume the most responsibility and execute it properly. And for the most part, those who have done that in society happen to be men. You may not like the sound of that, but it is true. You may think, no, I believe, you know, what a man can do, a woman can do better. It may sound nice, but it is not true. It is fallacious. It is a lie. John asks, Frank, did the feminists attack your stream? I wonder. No, I don't think they did. Feminists, women in STEM is like the gender pay gap. It's a myth. So I don't think they can attack my stream. I don't think they can attack my stream. And this is from Bote Molelekwa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name well. You said women should also have responsibilities for feeding their families and stuff. Yeah, women should have responsibility, but their responsibility is different. You understand? And their responsibility is different. They have different responsibilities, different set of responsibilities that differ from the ones that men have to assume in society. And so many of those responsibilities are not things that society may consider prestigious. And I would agree with anyone who says such sentiments should be addressed. Right? This sentiment that tries to, or this notion, or these views, or this way of discussing about this that kind of tries to undermine the contribution of women in society because it doesn't involve heavy lifting or working in an oil rig or working in a power line and stuff like that. There are people who try to undermine women's contribution to society because that's not what they are doing. And I'm like, no. Those things that women do that may not seem hard, right, are important. They are very important. And despite how we may think they are easy, we as men, we can't do it. So we should not live in a society that kind of undermine a contribution of women and see it as insignificant because it is not the same as lifting 100-pound weight or 500-pound weight. You know, some of us lift weights, some of us lift emotional burdens, some of us lift up others, manage the household. And those of us who are experts in lifting weights may not be good at, connecting with children and nurturing children. So let's not do that. Let us recognize that everything each one of us contribute to society is equally important. That is what I think would help society, move forward in harmony and not put enmity between the sexes. Solomon Wilby said, women should understand that compromise and dialogue is the way to go. These extremists and sad women have invaded a movement that at the beginning had a purpose. Honestly, feminism at the beginning had valid complaint, but from the onset, they didn't set out to be... Feminists from the onset were anti-family. That's what some people don't understand. If you read early write-ups by early feminists, most of them were already expressing anti-family sentiments. Their viewpoint was the destruction of the nuclear family. They had it in their manifesto. It's just now people are trying to... There's this revisionist history when it comes to feminism to make it look like, oh no, from the onset, these people were not extreme. No, they have always been extreme. They've always had extreme feminists have always existed in the movement. In fact, it is much later on that we started having moderate feminists. At the onset, they were extreme. They were extremists. Okay. This is by Lil Ann. You have a rapper-like name. Rapper-like username. You say, thanks. As a woman, I really like what you said now. Thank you. I'm happy that you agree with me. Bote Molelekwa said, I'm saying they should not have it easy just like men do. Okay, you're saying women should have the same kind of life that men have. But if that is your idea, if that's what you believe, then how do we as a society factor in the fact that women are different? If we agree that men and women are different, biologically, psychologically, emotionally, whatever, if we agree that they are different, how then do we want men and women to have the same experience and to shoulder the same burden and to assume the same responsibilities? They shouldn't. They should have responsibilities. They should have burdens, but those burdens and responsibilities should never be the same. Because, they are different. If we agree that they are different, then we have to agree on this as well. This is by John. It says, Frank, when is your next live? Also, thank you for the live stream today. plus does feminist exist in Nigeria? Yeah, I saw when you made that question, when you asked that question earlier. The first time I encountered feminists in real life was in the university. When you go to Nigerian universities, you see so many self-proclaimed feminists. There are plenty. How you know them is that they are huge fans of Chimamanda Adichie. They love the woman, right? So you see them in the university. But one thing that I often, one reason why I don't take feminists in the university serious is that in the university is where you see a lot of people who are ideologically driven. These are people who are not pragmatic. They are people who have not tested out their theories. They are people whose life have not shown them that for the most part they are wrong, right? So in the university environment allows you to be ideological, right? And I think it should allow you to develop ideas, to come up with notions, to argue stuff, without putting it to the test. But real life is when you get to see that some of the notions you held in school were terrible and detrimental. So yes, you see them for the most part in universities. But when you go to the real world, that's where feminists tend to disappear. And I don't know if that's the case in the West. Any other question? This is from Ice Queen. She said, I do not want to be a man. I want to be a mother, a wife, and I want to take care of my family without judgment from other women. And also from other men or from anybody. You have the right to live your life fully as a woman. You should be given that and also be respected for that. I feel one of the reasons why feminists sometimes seem to have a valid argument when it comes to them wanting to assume masculine role is because when they assume feminine role, sometimes they are not respected for it, or they feel that they are not being recognized and respected for it, and it is problematic. In society, we should recognize the efforts that women put in making sure society function and run, and we should celebrate them for it. I would even say that they are deserving of double honor. They are. As a man, I don't even like being celebrated, this whole celebration thing, but I realize that it means a lot to women. And if that is the case, then we should give them double, triple honor. There is nothing wrong in doing that. And maybe that makes me a feminist, I don't know, because many people in the red pill community don't like when people say things like that. Like, how dare you? How dare you talk about women having something that resembles a value, or how dare you say women should be celebrated? Celebrated for what? Men are the ones working at the oil rigs. And this is one thing I don't like about when people say this thing about oil rig workers. Especially anybody that I see mentioning oil rig workers, power plant workers, those who work in the cold, those who are in the militaries, those who are in the trenches. That is not them. Like people who are mentioning those kind of men, they are not those kind of men. They are mostly sitting behind their laptop or in front of a camera, or being invited to give a talk, and to make a point about masculinity, they just be like, oh, remember that men are the one who do this and that and that. And I'm like, yeah, there are men that do those things, but those men don't include you. You are not one of them. Isoro. Oh, so calm down. And be willing to appreciate and encourage women. Women are... some of these things I will say, some women will not like it. But women like, things that you'd say is appreciating them. And men too love to be appreciated as well. So if you can appreciate women, if you can appreciate women, if you can, and as much as you can, appreciate men. We should appreciate each other, appreciate one another, see what we contribute to society and appreciate that. We should learn to be appreciative, to say thank you, to say I see what you are doing, I recognize what you are doing, and I am grateful for having you, and I'm grateful for what you contribute to society. It should not be hard to say that. This is from Lil Ann. It is also stupid when they say men are not allowed to speak about women issues. Yeah, that's ridiculous. To say people should not, it is not your lived experience. You don't understand it. Well, you better make me understand it. Because whatever it is you are advocating for, except half of the population dies, you will not achieve it without men. That's one thing feminists need to understand. Whatever it is you are advocating for, except half of the population falls down and die right now, you will not achieve it without men. It may sound annoying, you may not like it, but it is the truth. You know. And why men have been able to achieve, why feminists have been able to achieve so many of the things, the milestones they've been able to achieve in society, and why they've been able to destroy it, especially Western society, is because the men have allowed them. Which is why I also feel men should take a portion of the blame when they want to talk about things that feminism has wrought in society. I'm like, you were complacent. You allowed this to happen. You sat by and you allowed it. Sometimes you even actively participated in it. So you you can't do that now and be like, oh, well, it's the feminists who ruin society. You can't do that now. No, you can't. You have to take a portion of the blame. And this is where we come to the end of the live stream, guys. I cannot take any more questions. This is it's been 2 hours. Thank you all for sticking around with me this long. I appreciate everyone who was able to join. So many more questions, but I have to wrap it up. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I'm happy that, of all the technical issues that we experienced today, none of them had to do with the network. And I'm grateful for that. Thank you, Lord. And with that being said, thank you each and every one of you for tuning in, for joining me, for participating, for commenting, for liking, for everything.